IMTV! Well, welcome one and all to everybody out in IMTV world. Hope you're alright wherever you are. And today we're at the Ziget Festival here in Budapest, which is a rather salubrious city, as we discovered last night in certain parts, but most of it was closed, sadly, because it was a Monday. But we're backstage in these rather lush surroundings, and we've actually managed to catch up with the not elusive, because you're not always elusive. It's just our working days don't really kind of mix for some reason. So anyway, we managed to catch up with the one and only Mr. Bruce Dickinson, and we've sort of been chatting to everybody as we've been going. So how have you found it? That was a very general question, but how have you found the tour so far? And yeah.
Well, I mean, it's I think exceeded all of our expectations, really, from when we started. I mean, we had no idea that the first round the world bit was going to be so big, that was going to generate so much publicity, and it really has been a bit of a snowball, you know, and as it rolls down the hill, gathers more snow and just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. I mean, we've got this place tonight. I mean, all the estimates before the tour were looking at 30,000 people for tonight, and we got 50.
Wow.
So it kind of, we're just blowing the doors off all of our concepts of how big Maiden could get. I think it really does call into question the idea that there are limits on the whole thing, potentially. I mean, and we are bigger. I mean, we're bigger than the Stones in probably 50% of the places we played, which is amazing, really. Because I mean, I know the Stones probably, you know, it's probably not a good example, because obviously they're a fairly, you know, middle-aged audience, and we're a very young audience for Maiden. But it's still a pretty cool benchmark, you know. Yeah.
Well, I think as well, we're here in Budapest today, and we've been in recently, obviously, Warsaw, Bucharest, and places like that, which were timed with. We played back 24 years ago, back when I'm behind the Iron Curtain.
Yeah.
So, and obviously saying it now, we're playing massive stadiums, but obviously it was hugely popular then as well.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, have you seen what? I suppose you can. It's quite difficult to explain the changes that between then and now. I mean, I'm sure there's quite a bit that's been different, but I dare say the fans have never changed really that much.
Just you know, just the quality of the facilities and the PAs and the sound, just everything is just more organised and more together. But what they've managed to do it without losing the essence of the kind of temporary insanity that seizes people in these places. You know, Eastern Europe is it's lovely because they haven't lost they haven't lost their passion. You know, so just by having organisation, they haven't lost their love of life and rock and roll and everything. You know, it's still there's still this little bit of somewhere underneath there is this culture of, hey, anything goes, it's rock and roll. Whereas, I hate to say it, but in England, you know, now, you know, you go to Wembley Stadium and you're not allowed to wear shorts on stage. Health and safety. You know, you've got to wear a little green jacket in case, you know, a meteorite falls out of the sky, you know, like it's going to avoid you if you're wearing a little green jacket, you know. So all that kind of bullshit doesn't seem to have percolated over here. I mean, it may do eventually, you know, when the EU gets its talons in properly. But for now, it's kind of nice, you know, because it's relaxed and you can get on with it. You can have fun, and there's not too much red tape and stuff, you know.
And how's the tour been for you generally? Have you found it quite tough? I mean, the schedule we're keeping, obviously, it's, you know, we've been doing a hell of a lot of travelling on the first leg. I mean, that's pretty tough for everybody, I think. But have you found it, you know, in terms of your vocal performance and everything else, have you found it pretty okay?
Yeah, it has been very hard though. It has been hard. I mean, it's a hard set. It's a 2-hour set, and it's a hard job singing it. You know.
Finish with Hallowed that's a bit of a demand as it is.
So I mean, I think it's about 75 shows in 5 months.
Pretty stiff.
That's a pretty stiff you know,
a tough show to sing.
You know, that's a pretty stiff tally considering all the. And not only that, but you know, these aren't. They're not easy shows. You know, you could look at some of these shows and go, well, this is like a make or break show. You know, Gothenburg, Ullevi was, you know, if you screw up there, you've really screwed up. You know, if you screw up at Twickenham, phew, you know.
Yeah, well, they're major highlights.
Major highlights, major press, major pressure. You know, not just the 45,000, 55,000 people at those places, but it's, you know, it's your reputation, it's their reputation. You know. Whereas, you know, to go somewhere like, you know, like at the back end of the tour, like a Split or somewhere like that, you know, it's less pressure on the band, but actually you can relax a bit more and just sort of roll with it. You know, great shows.
You
but
can take in the show a lot more rather than. Just
you have time. You can have time to. You can have time to let yourself be an observer and enjoy it. But the really big ones, you're in it so much that by the end of the show, you're noticeably more exhausted.
Yeah.
So when somebody comes up at the end and goes, "God, that was great," you go, "Yeah, I think it was. Yeah." I mean,
I have that quite often myself.
you know, because you know, it's not in a bad way, but you know. Everybody's arms were in the air, everybody was going nuts, everybody's screaming, everything. And so, yeah, I guess it must have been great. But I was too busy trying to think about the next song to you know, and keeping that bubbling away, you know, with the audience. So when it's all over, you don't start to get any perspective on anything.
Yeah, because you haven't had a chance
for
to take it in.
2-3 hours, you know. And I have to ask other people, was that any good tonight?
Yeah.
And they go, "Oh, brilliant." I mean, was it? Oh, great. Because we're always, touch wood, you know, we're always good, but you can't tell. You know, I don't know what the sound's like out front. You know, you can't tell. It's all those little things that you see when you're out front that we can't tell what makes something just the night to remember. Or another great Maiden show, you know. So it's. You know.
I remember you saying, you've said this before in possibly other interviews. I remember you saying, you know, when you basically the way you build an audience, you kind of pick on one person and a group of people, and then generally you sort of group people bigger and bigger, and that's how you kind of grab an audience. But something like 57,000 odd people, that's a bit of a trick, isn't it?
Yeah. You have to. It's kind of. How can I put it? Yeah, it's a. Area bombardment as opposed to precision munitions, you know. Yeah.
Carpet bombing kind of thing going on.
Carpet bombing, yeah, there you go.
What about the show itself? Is there any sort of, we've asked everybody this along the way, have been any sort of personal highlights of the show that you kind of, I know it's difficult to say because you're obviously doing it every night, but is there any sort of personal parts of the show, like perhaps when you come up on Power Slave Behind the Flames, or the re-entrance in Mariner seems to be a popular one. Steve, I think Steve mentioned that one. He liked that when it came back in and all that kind.
I love Mariner. I think Mariner for me is the Mariner for me is the highlight for me of the set. You know, it's a tough song to sing, but it seems to happen at a point during the show when my voice is, you know, kicked out any cobwebs, and it's, you know, it's always pretty sound, you know, for it, and I just think it with this, particularly with the screens. It seems to work because you know, obviously I've never seen the show from out front with the screens. I don't know how much my mugshot is up there, but
It's quite a bit.
Yeah, but so in song like Mariner, where I'm not moving like a lot on stage, but there's a lot of emoting and dramatizing of the song going on stage with the way I perform it. It's quite nice to know that the cameras are there because, you know, that can come across. you know.
Well, that's a try. I think we try and, particularly on those songs, you try and concentrate. For those that you wondering what the hell we do backstage, we actually try and concentrate on songs. So there is this kind of script in terms of what we film and do. So, you know, try and create drama by adding to it rather than just sort of banging something on the screen. Yeah, a bit of drama, darling. All the theatre. So, I mean, touching wood again. I mean, any sort of we haven't had any mishaps. We haven't had any sort of scream for me. Somewhere when it was somewhere else, or we haven't had any of those, have we? Scream for me Finland when it was Sweden, or
No, I did have a moment in Prague actually when I cocked up the words to Mariner, and it was the
windy night.
It was the windy night, but it was the set guys backstage. And I there's these guys in the bottom of the backdrops blow around. So if that's occurring, they get these guys to come and physically hold on to it. Well, you know, I get togged up in my, you know, like Hogwarts cape, dash up there, and try and sort of lose myself, sort of in character, as it were, you know. And I muck about with the spot at the back with the cape, because if you can get the flow of it right, it kind of looks like a bird getting bigger and stuff like that. So I'm kind of doing this, and I've got my back to the audience, and I'd sort of I'd suddenly looked, and there's all these pairs of eyes looking at me, going, and I'm like going, what? And I thought, God, I must look really stupid to them, just waving my arms around up here for no apparent reason, you know, in some bizarre sort of, you know, mad monk-like outfit, you know, looking like Rasputin, where. They're sitting there bored holding a curtain. And as I thought that, I'd missed the first line of the third verse. And I thought, oh shit, what is it? And by that time I missed the fourth line, and then I thought, oh, there's no way back in now. Oh fuck.
Well, it's not an easy song that you can just.
No, I can't just jump in there. You've got to find your place in the song somewhere. So I started one line, then another line, then a couple of and then he told, oh Christ, and you know, earth swallow me up, you know, I'm not sure whether anybody noticed. Somebody must have noticed. I mean, maybe,
I'm
you know.
sure the aficionados down the front oh, look at it, oh, terrible.
Well, but nobody bloody noticed afterwards, because it was all the Bruce Air guys were on it. And that night, I was on the airplane with all the Bruce Air fellas flying back, and they're all coming up to me going, "Oh, it was one of the best gigs I've ever seen. It was great." I went, "Yeah."
It just goes to show, doesn't it?
You know, but it was a great gig. But we did lose a couple of verses of Mariner. I think I got back on track after a couple, you know. Christ, I was embarrassed. It's the terror, the sheer terror.
Well, of course it is.
You know,
yeah, I bet.
It's not like when you're an actor and you've got some bloke on a stick that comes up with a little prompt. You know, I haven't got one of those. The prompt, my friend, is in my head. You know.
Yeah, that's right. Well, yeah. So unfortunately, there are certain performers out there who do use video prompters planted around the stage, but you've never had one of those.
No,
so.
not me. That's the
Old
time.
School.
That's the time to retire.
But yeah, it's the time to retire.
The thing about this particular set, I mean, it is 2 hours long, but it fairly whizzes through, and you really don't. I really don't notice the time.
Yeah.
You know, you get to Trooper and you suddenly go, shit, before song's in. You know, and then you sort of, you know, you get past. Then the next thing is suddenly you do starting Mariner. You suddenly get to the end of Mariner and you think, Christ, we're 2/3 of the way through. Power Slave, and then suddenly it's like, boom, boom, boom. You know. So it's, and the encores I think work great.
Yeah.
The encores are, apart from the walk on Eddie, just almost 100% musical, no gimmicks, no nothing, you know, and I just think it works superbly.
Percy Moonchild and Clairvoyant are my kind of highlights.
I'm really impressed with the reaction to Moonchild. It's great. Consistently every night people are going, hey, great, you know.
But yeah, just without giving too much away, really, I suppose. Plans for the future. Obviously, we're now sort of reaching this little the curtain is sort of coming down on this particular little venture we've done this summer. So I suppose we can't give too much away, can we?
No, except to say that we shall be hoisting the Jolly Roger again next year.
Yes. Very well said, sir. And I think there's a studio album on the way somewhere way down there.
Yeah,
down
not next year, but the year after there'll be a studio album. But we've got something to do next year, which will occupy us for a couple of months.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, sir.
Yeah.
And have a good show tonight, obviously.
Yeah.
And onwards from here.
Onwards indeed, and I'm looking forward to next year.
Yes.
With great excitement, and so should you be too, even though you don't know why.
Should I? Yeah. Okay.
I'm talking to you, but looking at him.
Okay, do that one.
I'm talking to you.
All right. Well, thank you very much. On with the show.